The global conversation on the Ukraine war shifted dramatically in recent days, as new statements from the United States sent ripples through diplomatic circles and newsrooms worldwide. This shift came after President Donald Trump's recent remarks, which quickly became the focal point of international debate and speculation. At a high-profile White House press conference alongside Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Trump made headlines by bluntly stating, "I don't think they will win," referring to Ukraine's ongoing struggle against Russian forces. His words cast a shadow of doubt over Ukraine's prospects and immediately sparked concern among both allies and adversaries. Yet, in typical Trump fashion, he quickly followed up with a more ambiguous statement. But they could still win it. Anything can happen. This left the room buzzing with uncertainty, as officials and journalists tried to decipher the true meaning behind his words and what they might signal for U.S. foreign policy. Trump went on to attribute the war's stubborn persistence to the personal animosity between the leaders involved, suggesting that the conflict was as much about individual rivalries as it was about broader geopolitical interests. He framed the war as a complex mix of personal and political motivations, making the path to peace seem even more elusive. These comments marked a sharp departure from Washington's previous message of unwavering support for Ukraine, which had been a consistent theme in official briefings and public statements since the conflict began. The contradictory nature of Trump's statements introduced a new layer of uncertainty about America's long-term commitment to Ukraine's defense. Diplomats and analysts alike scrambled to interpret whether this signaled a potential policy shift or was simply another example of Trump's unpredictable rhetoric. International observers, as well as the Ukrainian government, were left questioning what a future without the prospect of total victory might look like. For Kyiv, the ambiguity from Washington raised difficult questions about military strategy, diplomatic negotiations, and the morale of both soldiers and civilians. As the world's attention remains fixed on Washington, leaders and citizens across the globe are anxiously awaiting the next signal, hoping for clarity on America's true intentions and the future of the Ukraine conflict. Trump's comments are just the latest in a long and complicated series of shifting U.S. positions on Ukraine. Over the years, American leaders have sent mixed signals, sometimes offering strong support, other times urging restraint or compromise. This pattern of changing messages has made it difficult for both allies and adversaries to predict what the United States will do next, and has left Ukraine in a constant state of uncertainty about the level of support it can truly rely on. Only weeks earlier, at the United Nations, Trump had suggested that Ukraine could retake all its territory, a bold and optimistic message that was welcomed by Kyiv and seen as a sign of unwavering American backing. Ukrainian officials responded with hope, interpreting the statement as a green light for continued resistance and a promise of further U.S. assistance. The international community watched closely, wondering if this marked a new era of American resolve. But the optimism was short-lived. After a failed Alaska peace summit with Putin, Trump's tone quickly hardened. The administration began to talk more openly about sending advanced weapons to Ukraine, including systems that had previously been off the table. This hawkish shift was seen as a direct response to Russia's intransigence, and it fueled speculation about a possible escalation of U.S. involvement in the conflict. Yet, that tough stance faded almost overnight after a private phone call between Trump and Putin. Suddenly, the administration's rhetoric softened, and plans to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine were quietly shelved. The abrupt change left many in Washington and Kyiv scrambling to understand what had happened behind closed doors, and whether U.S. policy was being shaped by personal diplomacy rather than strategic interests. Reports soon emerged of a heated White House meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, where Trump allegedly pressured Ukraine to accept Russian demands. The meeting, described by insiders as tense and confusing, only deepened the sense of uncertainty. For Ukraine, the mixed messages from Washington made it nearly impossible to chart a clear path forward. The administration's approach has swung dramatically, from supporting total Ukrainian victory to urging painful compromise. Each shift has sent ripples through diplomatic circles, forcing allies to constantly reassess their own positions and strategies. This diplomatic whiplash has left both allies and adversaries uncertain about U.S. strategy. European leaders, in particular, have struggled to keep up with the rapid changes, unsure whether to prepare for escalation or renewed negotiations. The result is a complex, often contradictory, American role in Europe's largest conflict in generations, one that continues to shape the fate of Ukraine, the stability of the region, and the credibility of U.S. leadership on the world stage. Trump's Ukraine policy has been shaped by a series of high-stakes meetings with world leaders. The failed Alaska summit with Putin was a turning point, leading to talk of escalating U.S. military support for Ukraine. Yet, direct engagement with Putin, like their recent phone call, has repeatedly reversed hawkish momentum, softening U.S. rhetoric overnight. Private meetings with Zelensky have reportedly been tense, with Trump urging concessions that would be politically toxic in Kyiv. These leader-to-leader interactions have made U.S. policy unpredictable, forcing allies to constantly adapt. The result: a diplomatic landscape where a single conversation can upend months of planning. Allies and adversaries alike are left guessing what comes next. Amid shifting rhetoric, Trump has floated a frontline freeze ceasefire, calling for both sides to halt at current positions and begin talks. Zelensky called it a potentially good compromise, but doubted Russia would honor any agreement. For Kyiv, a freeze is tactical, not strategic, acceptable only with ironclad security guarantees. Russia, meanwhile, rejects any ceasefire that doesn't recognize its territorial gains. European leaders, weary of war, see the freeze as a possible off-ramp, but share Zelensky's skepticism. Without Russian buy-in and enforcement, a freeze risks becoming just a pause for Moscow to regroup. The core issue, control of occupied territories, remains unresolved. The frontline freeze is debated in Western capitals, but real peace remains elusive. The world waits for a breakthrough that still seems out of reach. Hopes for peace dimmed further when a planned Trump-Putin summit in Budapest was abruptly shelved. The summit, which was highly anticipated by many, was seen as a crucial step towards easing tensions between the two nations. Trump cited a lack of progress, while the Kremlin insisted preparations continued, highlighting deep mistrust. This conflicting narrative only served to deepen the already existing suspicions and misunderstandings between the two countries. Zelensky linked the summit's cancellation to America's reluctance to provide long-range missiles, suggesting Russia lost interest in talks once the threat faded. This connection underscores the complex web of military and diplomatic considerations that influence international relations. A pivotal Trump-Putin phone call preceded the shift, with U.S. policy moving from military escalation to renewed negotiation. This call, shrouded in secrecy, marked a significant turning point in the diplomatic efforts between the two nations. The exact content of their conversation remains secret, but the impact was immediate. Hawkish talk vanished, and diplomacy took center stage. The sudden shift in tone was noticeable, as both sides appeared more willing to engage in dialogue rather than confrontation. The diplomatic process now appears fragile, easily derailed by a single call or shift in leverage. The stakes are incredibly high, and the path forward is fraught with potential pitfalls. The shelving of the summit underscores the immense difficulty of building trust and common ground. It serves as a stark reminder of how delicate and precarious international diplomacy can be. The world is left wondering if any diplomatic path forward remains. As global tensions continue to rise, the need for effective and sustained dialogue has never been more critical. Hours after the Budapest summit was shelved, Russia unleashed a massive wave of attacks across Ukraine. Over 400 drones and 28 missiles targeted cities and infrastructure, killing civilians, including children, and causing widespread destruction. Energy and water systems were hit, plunging regions into darkness and hardship as winter looms. Russia's strategy broke Ukrainian resistance by making daily life unbearable. Ukraine's air defenses shot down most projectiles, but some still got through, inflicting pain and loss. The attacks highlight the brutal gap between diplomatic talk and battlefield reality. Each strike is a reminder that, for now, war, not negotiation, sets the pace. The human cost continues to mount. Ukraine's resilience is tested daily. Ukraine is not just defending, it's striking back inside Russia. Ukrainian forces hit a Russian chemical plant in Bryansk, disrupting Moscow's war machine. Other attacks targeted weapons plants and oil refineries deep in Russia, aiming to degrade military production and raise the cost of war. These strikes, enabled by UK-supplied Storm Shadow missiles and new American F-16s, show Ukraine's growing reach. Kyiv's message attacks on Ukrainian cities will not go unanswered. This strategy risks escalation, but for Ukraine, It's a necessary response. The war is now fought on both sides of the border. Ukraine is determined to fight back, not just survive. As the war grinds on, Zelensky is waging a parallel diplomatic campaign across Europe. In Sweden, he discussed future fighter jet deals and deepened defense ties, even as immediate donations remain off the table. Sweden's advanced radar aircraft and ongoing support are vital for Ukraine's defense. Zelensky's tour includes Norway, Brussels, and London, where he'll press for more aid and unity among allies. The EU summit and a coalition of the willing meeting are key moments to secure weapons, funds, and political backing. Zelensky's relentless diplomacy is as crucial as battlefield courage. He must keep Ukraine's cause at the top of the global agenda. The fight for support is a race against time. As October 2025 ends, the Russia-Ukraine war remains a bloody stalemate. Trump's frontline freeze proposal has not broken the deadlock. Ukraine demands full sovereignty. Russia refuses to cede annexed lands. Both sides are locked in a war of attrition, with neither able to claim decisive victory. Russia's bombardments continue. Ukraine's defenses and counterstrikes grow stronger. Diplomatic efforts are stymied by mistrust and irreconcilable goals. Trump's shifting policies add unpredictability, while Zelensky fights for international support. The path forward is uncertain, between a ceasefire that freezes injustice and a just peace that remains out of reach. For now, the world waits, hoping for a breakthrough that still seems distant.